All right, everybody. Hi, I'm Linwood Fields with the Audience Awards, and I'm the producer.
I'm Kate Truzo. I'm Audience Awards Community Manager. We have Whitney Skauge here with us today. Hi, Whitney. Whitney is a two-time Fusion Doc Challenge finalist. Her film Beacons just became a top 12 film in the 2016 Fusion Doc Challenge. Whitney, thanks so much for being with us today. Whitney's film Everyone in Between won Best Directing, Best Editing, Best Score, and Best Film in the LGBTQ category. So that is pretty incredible. That film went on to premiere at Slamdance and then landed a Fusion license deal. Whitney, we thought we would ask what other festivals Everyone in Between went on to screen at and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, so after Slamdance, we went to the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Missoula, and that was really cool because we were all from Missoula at that time, and so it was kind of like a homecoming for us, and so it felt very, very just nice to have a lot of community members. We had a lot of our professors were there, so that was really fun. And then we went to Treefort Music Fest, which was cool because it was like we got to like hang out in the artist lounge, and so we thought that was very cool. And then after that, we played at a lot of like LGBT specific film festivals. So we played at a festival in Tennessee, North Carolina, Seattle, and other places that I can't remember right now. But yeah, I mean, it was a really great experience to be able to, elevate voices, especially those in the LGBT community, and to have your work screened across the country is super cool.
Hey, Whitney, can you tell me a little bit about your experience doing Fusion for the first time, especially for filmmakers who are thinking about doing it, and
Yeah.
how you got your team together, what it was like when you first got the prompt, all that kind of stuff?
Totally. So when I first did Fusion, I was a senior at the University of Montana, and so everyone on my team was also a senior. They were classmates and long-term friends, and I knew about it because of you. You were one of my professors in business and TV and film, and you're like, oh my gosh, like you should do this. And I didn't do it that year. And then I went and saw like on Facebook the experience everyone had. And I was like, oh, like Linwood was right. I should have done that. And so that next summer I signed up, didn't know who was going to be on my team. And then I got to my senior year and I start kind of telling people, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Eventually we have a group of 7 of us. So we had Lane Brown, Jeffy Neubauer, Paris Bread, Sean Guslander, Hiroka, I'm going to mess up your name, last name, so I'm not going to try, and then Sean Rudolph. It was a lot of us, but yeah, so we all got together and we decided we were going to do it. We got the class time off, and then when we got our prompts, I think that year it was like moving forward was like the general theme, and then our 2 categories were LGBT and environment, and we like spent like 5 hours being like, I don't know, man, like maybe we can make a really cool film about like fracking. And we're like, but like, who do we know that we can do that in 5 days? And like, we're getting all crazy with it. And like, I was like, guys, like we have 5 days. We cannot make like a groundbreaking environmental film right now about that. And so eventually we went with LGBT because we felt we could do a more personal story with that. We could do a story more focused on people. And I think as filmmakers, that's what we were all drawn to more. So we ended up going with LGBT, and then thinking of moving forward, we were thinking of the most progressive movement within LGBT, and we decided that transgendered rights were very much on the forefront of that at the time. It was late 2015. You're starting to see people like Laverne Cox. You're starting to see a lot more of a conversation. So we just felt it was very timely. And then on top of that, we had access to that community. So it just kind of all fell into place from there.
And so then, what were some of the struggles of making a film in that time, but then also what happened because of having that time constraint?
So I think a main hassle, or not hassle, but like struggle of that time frame is not being able to make it perfect. And I think, I don't want to say we wasted time. I think a lot of the time that we spent trying to like really finesse the aesthetic was very important, but it got to a point where we're, putting all these effects on it and we're trying to make the footage look as good as we can, and we didn't have the story script done yet. And so it was prioritizing was a really big challenge, I think, especially working with a pretty big crew, working with a crew of very, very talented people that aren't used to their work coming out unless it's 100% polished and how they want it. I think you have to allow yourself to kind of let go, and you have to allow yourself just to be like, what are we trying to make? And that can be said again for this year. It's very easy as filmmakers to get caught up in the technical aspects of things. And so Fusion forces you to say, no, we don't have time for that. What is our story? And so I think that was a struggle, but that was also something that was very positive that came out of this experience, and that I think everyone has taken with them moving forward in their projects, is that filmmaking, yes, it's very cool to have drone shots, and it's very cool to have, your gimbals, and we have all this wonderful technology, but they're just tools to help your story. Ultimately, the story has to come first, and I think that's what Fusion really forces you to focus on with the theme and with the genre. It's not like you have a week to do sound, and you have a week to do color correction, and you have a week to do, all these amazing things that you can do with technology now. You just don't have time. So it really forces you to prioritize what's most important for that film. And ultimately, it's story. It always has to be the story.
Yeah. So tell me about if somebody is thinking about doing Fusion, tell me about why they should do something like this. If they're kind of on the fence about what it is.
Yeah. I think because it puts you out of your comfort zone. And I was actually thinking about this when I was driving home from work yesterday. I was like, what are they going to ask me? And they're probably going to ask me why Fusion's great, and I'm going to tell them. So the thing about Fusion that is really important, and that I've done twice now, is that, you get all these minds together. And both times I've done Fusion, we've kind of come into a community where you're just working as co-directors. No one's like, I'm the DP and I'm the editor. You just don't really have time for that. And so you're working in a communal space. And so what I think Fusion really does is it says, what film do you want to make? What is a film you've always wanted to make, but you never allowed yourself to, or you never had time to, or you can never follow through with? Fusion has enough stakes in it that, okay, I paid the submission fee. I got these dates off. I got these people. It's like, you might as well just follow through, There's enough stake in it that it's like, okay, well, if I bail, then all these people are going to be upset. And then that I pay the submission fee, you know what I mean? There's enough stakes in it that it forces you just to follow through. And it's so easy as a filmmaker not to follow through.
Yeah, it's commitment. It makes that commitment happen.
Yeah, totally. And then once you, have that commitment, and then you have your team, I always try to follow the, general theme as much as possible, but the first thing I have always said is, what is a film you've always wanted to make? Because you have this time period, and yeah, there's rules and there's constrictions and there's guidelines, but ultimately you still have a lot of creative freedom, probably the most that you'll get in your career in terms of knowing that you're going to submit this somewhere. So yeah, if you're a filmmaker and you don't know if you want to do this, or you don't know if you have time for it, make the time for it. If you have a project that you've always wanted to do, and you've had people that you've always wanted to work with, but it hasn't worked out, you have enough time in advance to line out those days of Fusion. You can't plan too much else about it except for the time, but you just ask yourself, what have I always wanted to make and never had the opportunity to make?
So
in terms of documentary.
In that timeline, so then what happens for you as a filmmaker once you get accepted to, once you're the top 12, what was that experience for you like? Not just making a film, but now going on to the festival circuit and some of the stuff that happened at Slamdance, because there's a few filmmakers for 2016 who've never had that experience. So what can you kind of share with them that they should plan for, and what was exciting for you and helpful?
Definitely. So we took everyone in between to Slamdance, and it was really cute because we were a bunch of seniors in college, and we were just looking around. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But it's awesome to be able to be in a room with people that you don't know watch your film. If you've never had that experience, it's very gratifying. and it's very nerve-wracking. It's very scary. But ultimately, it's cool. You're sitting in this theater. Nobody has any idea, who made what for the most part. And then your movie plays and like everyone claps and you're like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. And then on top of that, the networking is really great. Something I would suggest to do, make posters of your movie, have postcards of your movie with like the time that it's screening, because you're going to meet so many people and it's very chaotic because Sundance is also going on. And so if you have, a postcard and be like, hey, come check out my film, and it has the time and the theater and the date, that's a really good way to make sure people are going to your film. I know that you guys are really great at promoting it, but I mean, again, it's a very chaotic environment, so I would suggest doing that. We didn't do that, and we got there and we just saw this like table full of postcards and business cards, and we were all like, we had our personal business cards but nothing for our film specifically, and it was like, duh.
Yeah, that's good for people to know. So having some promotion when you're there is a good way to get there too. Whitney, this has gone so fast. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you kind of a separate question from Fusion. But, what's a hot topic in filmmaking world right now is women in film, women of color, women with LGBTQ experiences. Can you talk a little bit about your experience as that kind of person and, where you see yourself as a filmmaker in the future?
Oh boy. Okay, I will keep in mind that we don't have a lot of time, because this is I could go on about this for a long time, but I will give you the short version.
Okay.
The short version of me being, a triple minority in the filmmaking industry, in any industry, is that representation matters, right? Everything we're talking about, with you asking me what's it like to be a female, what's it like to be queer, and what's it like to be a person of color, it's saying that these people aren't already represented in media. And so therefore, me as that filmmaker, I not only have a job to myself just to accurately, represent what I feel and what I think personally as a filmmaker, but you have a responsibility to all the people that do not have a platform. The people in the queer community that don't have a platform, the people in poor communities that don't have a platform, especially in documentary. I mean, yeah, we all know what it's like to be a straight white man. We got it. We get it. It's not anything that nobody knows, right? And so what we're talking about is representation, because people like to act like media doesn't have an impact and it's just entertainment and, oh, those dumb celebrities in Hollywood. That's not true. Kids watch TV, kids watch Facebook, media is so important. And as a little kid, if you're queer or if you're black or if you're female and you don't see yourself on screen, what does that say? You can't be what you can't see. If you don't see a black doctor on TV, do you think you can be one? If you don't see a queer politician, do you think you can be one? No. And so I think for me, being, a female, being a person of color, and being queer, it's very important that I'm in this industry, and it's important that the industry accepts more of these voices moving forward. In terms of what I'm going to do as a filmmaker, I'm just going to make films that I think are important. Thinking of Beacons, I worked with 4 of my closest friends on that, and it was a very political film. It was the most political film we've made, and we all went into it saying, I don't care if this doesn't get in, I need to say these things. So I think, being a minority, you kind of have to step your game up a little bit, which is like ironic because it's like you shouldn't have to. But yeah, I think it's important to really elevate voices. So
yeah, well, we are thrilled by your work and can't wait to follow your career more and help you in any way we can too. So we're super excited for the partnership that we've already started. 2nd year going to Fusion. So congrats, Whitney. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on with us. Yeah, like Linwood said, we can't wait to watch Beacons once again go through the film festival circuit, just like everyone in between did. Thanks, Whitney, for jumping on the call with us.
All right, we'll talk soon. Bye.